Welcome to the Power of I Am podcast. I am your host, Crystal Kelly. This is a show where great things are possible by great people. Join me as I discuss interesting topics with people from everywhere. We will focus on creating a life of victory by declaring with conviction the positive power of I Am. Hi, and thank you for joining the Power of I Am podcast. Today, joining me on this episode on how to be an effective speaker, I have with me Dr. Cheryl Wood. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to just jump right into this conversation. I met you a few years back, and I just remembered hearing such great things about you. I actually drove from Connecticut, took the train from Connecticut all the way to DC to be on your show, because it was all about just motivation and just talking to people, keeping real life people, real life stories alive and accessible to other people. And I was just like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on your show. Thank you for being on this podcast with me today. So why don't you give our audience just a brief background of who Dr. Cheryl Woods is?
Yeah, so I always like to break it into like the professional me and the personal me. So the personal me, because they intertwine, right? The personal me, I am a wife. My husband and I just celebrated 13 years of marriage last month. So that's amazing.
Ooh.
Yes, we still like
Black
each other.
love.
We still like each other. We're in love, but we also still like each other, which is so important.
Yes,
and we have 3 beautiful children together, 2 sons and a daughter. My sons are 12 and 13, and my daughter is 16. So we are in a different season in this whole parenthood thing. So we're still figuring that part out, but so far so good.
And then to be empty nesters?
Not yet. Soon, in a couple years. I can't believe my daughter, when we go back to the next school year, will be a junior. I'm like, what? You're becoming a woman? Like that creeps me out a little bit, but I'm breathing through it.
Yeah.
And then the professional side of me, I am an international empowerment speaker. I'm a leadership expert, an 11-time best-selling author, and a master speaker development coach specifically for women. And the reason that I say specifically for women is because I believe that we have a different way of expressing ourselves and articulating our ideas and concepts and vision. And I want to give more women globally permission to use their feminine power to express what is their core message to the world. Awesome. And so I know that there are a lot of women in business who are not tapping into the power of their voice, not only as a way of creating a living legacy and impacting more lives, but also as a way of increasing their bottom line. And so I want to be able to connect the dots between the two. So I love what I do. I love traveling the world doing this. And I'm going to be doing this as long as I have breath in my body.
Awesome. It's when you think about being a vocal coach and being a speaker, I think in the last few years, that's just something that me personally, I have seen explode as far as just being a profession, or, one that people are really aspiring to be and do in life. I went to, my undergrad was in mass communications, and a lot of it was broadcasting, public editing, and being in the studios. Not a lot of it was really just, I want to be a professional speaker, and I want to be, great and teach other people, not only women, but teach other people on how to be an effective speaker. So when you hear those words, being an effective speaker, what does that mean? Like, how did you get into, this is an untapped avenue. I want to tap into it. This is something that I want to hone my craft in, and then teach others how to do the same.
Yeah, I think all of us, we are gifted with something unique. And most of us spend way too much time diminishing that thing because it's so easy to us. But other people on the outside looking in are like, oh my God, I wish I could do that. So right. I have this way of being able to effectively communicate a message. It doesn't matter if you're the janitor in the building or the CEO or the board of directors. I have just as much confidence talking to each of those groups of people and being able to clearly express my ideas in a way that's not too complex, but not too simple, right? And so I think that that is a gift that I've been given that I'm committed to sharing. Now, that doesn't mean just because I have the gift that I don't have to master it,
Right.
because you still have to master the skill set around your gift. But I believe all of us are sitting on something that someone else is waiting on. And so for a long time, I kept my voice quiet because I didn't think I was good enough to be in front of the masses of people sharing a core message, because of all these things I felt like I didn't have. So for me, it was just giving myself permission to give my own self validation and permission to be great, regardless of what I felt like I was missing out on. And understanding that if you really want to be a leader and a giant in the world, that communication is a big piece of that. You have to be able to influence people. You have to be able to persuade people to think of things your way, to consider your concept or your idea. So that's just a general foundational element of being successful in life at all. And I just was blessed with the gift, and I decided to keep mastering the skill set around the gift and use it to help other people.
That's awesome. So when you run across a woman, because I know that, your workshops and your field focuses in on empowering women. So, and teaching women how to hone their craft and be better speakers. So when you run across a woman and she states to you, I want to be a speaker, or I'm a speaker. That could just mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But how do you get them to draw out what their message is? Like, what does that mean? You're a speaker. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think you kind of tapped into it, which is really narrowing down and niching down. Who do you want to serve, and what is your core message to that group of people? So there are 7.6 billion people in the world. You can't serve all of them. You don't even have the capacity to serve all of them, number one. But number two, your voice is not going to be heard by every person in the world. Like, it's not going to be magnetized to you, right? So you have to focus on the group of people that you most want to magnetize and have the greatest impact on while you're still here. And I think when we get out of that space of just having a generalized perspective of, oh, I can teach and serve and speak to anybody, and we narrow that down and say, no, I have this core group that I really want to serve with the power of my voice, because I've experienced the pain they've experienced before. I know that they'll be able to see themselves in me. And I know that there's something that I have that I've learned through my own experiences and my own mistakes that is going to be valuable to them. When you get to that place, that's how you really start to make your voice most powerful. It's not about, oh, I want to teach everybody and share something with everybody. No, I have a very specific message that is for a specific audience that's going to give them specific results. And so the more specific you can get, the better. So that just takes time to really get quiet, get still, and really map out who is that audience that I want to serve the most. Who will I add the most value to? Who will I have the most joy in serving? And who will my life experiences and my lessons learned and my failures and all that good stuff that kind of creates the holistic person that we are, who will that most profoundly impact so that they're able to have transformation in their life? And that really just kind of goes to clarity. There's this 8-step pyramid that I teach, and clarity is one of those steps on that pyramid. You have to be clear about who you are, what you've been through, what the pain is that somebody else is currently going through, a specific group of people, and how you're going to reach that specific group of people.
Yeah, I think it's important to, like you stated, to be clear on your message, but also you stated to what audience will you have joy in serving? I think that is so important, because that's something that I say often, like, whatever it is that you are doing in life, don't just do it because you think that you need to check a box. Do something that brings you joy. Do something that really makes you feel fulfilled. I know for me, when I graduated, or when I was choosing which college to go to, that was one of the things that, even on the college tour, they were just like, not every campus is made for everyone. You shouldn't just choose a campus because of its title or its prestige. You should choose a campus that fits you and feels good to you, along with your major. I started out, not a lot of people know that I started out as a computer science major. Love computers, love coding, but that's not something I was, doing because I enjoyed it. It was just something that I was doing because I thought that was the box to check. That would give me a good job. That would, pay the bills. I went to a computer math science magnet school growing up. So I'm like, okay, so this is the road that I should travel. But I love talking to people. I love, entertainment. I love the TV world. So I was just, eventually I switched over to doing things that I am really passionate about. Now, people, when they hone in and think about, what am I passionate about? And if it's a speaker, what are some of the major like advice tips that you give to someone that wants to jump into this arena? I know you said you have an 8-step pyramid that you teach from. What's some of the advice that you can give?
Yeah, I think number one, just get started right where you are. Give yourself permission to be good enough just as you are. There's a quote that I say quite often. It's my own quote, but it's so powerful, especially if you're thinking about branching into this industry. And that is that perfection and procrastination will always be the enemy of profitability and impact. And so many of us, we have a voice, we have something to say, we have a message, we have a story. All of us have a story, but we're so busy waiting for it to be perfect or look perfect that we just keep dragging it out. Oh, I'm gonna one day when this happens, then I will. And because of that, you are getting in your own way of impact on other people's lives and your own ability to increase profit margins in your business. So number one, just get started with what you have and be okay learning through the process of becoming a speaker. So a lot of what I learned while you're now talking to Cheryl Wood, an international speaker who's, traveled to South Africa and India and France and the Bahamas, and the list goes on, is because I started when I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was willing to show up and fall flat on my face with an audience watching me. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Right. So that's the scary part that a lot of people like, well, suppose I fall. No, it's not suppose. You're going to fall. You're going to fall flat on your face, and you're going to have an audience who's going to be watching you as you do it. But you will still be 10 steps ahead of most people who will never get started because they have that great fear of, oh, I'm going to fail and somebody's going to watch me fail. So I think number one, just give yourself permission to get started. And then, there's that 8-step pyramid that I think is pivotal. Number one at the bottom, and we start the bottom up, because you can't get the profitability if you don't do the 7 steps before profitability, right? So number one at the bottom level is mastery. You have to master what it is that you say you want to teach other people. As a speaker, you should never be teaching something in theory. You should be teaching it based on, I know that you'll get this result because I've done it. So always master your craft. Whatever you say you're going to teach, if it's going to be finances, be an expert at that thing. If it's going to be speaking, be an expert at speaking. If it's going to be health and wellness, do that. If it's self-care, whatever the thing is, just be the expert in it, which means, are you going to classes? Do you have your own coach? Are you reading books? Are you always pouring into your cup so you can pour into somebody else's cup? Awesome. And then the second step on that tier is clarity, which we just talked about, being very clear about who you serve, what their pain point is, how you serve them best, what benefits they get by working with you. Then if you go to number three is visibility. And you'll always hear me say this, visibility will always trump ability. Visibility is the thing that gets your foot in the door, but then your ability keeps you there. So you first got to get your foot in the door. And that's by showing up, being present in places where decision makers are that can hire you. Having a digital footprint through social media is critical. Like, how visible are you really? Pushing yourself for visibility. And then if you go to number four is credibility. Credibility is, do you actually have a viable solution that works in the marketplace? Like, do you have people who are your walking, talking billboard saying how dynamic your system or your solution is? Not just you saying how great you are, because that's easy. Right. You have other people who are out in the marketplace saying the same for you. And then you move from credibility into authenticity, which is just be the real you. Always show up as the real you. Don't try to ever be anybody else. Don't try to walk like, talk like, look like any other speaker. Be the authentic, genuine you, because everybody else is already taken. And you don't ever want to have to figure out who you were yesterday because you were somebody other than your authentic self.
That's right.
And there's transparency. Transparency is share your mess and your success. You can't share one or the other. You've got to share both. So some of us, we're running from the stuff we've been through and our past, and it's haunting us. We're running and cowering from it. We're in shame about it. No, that's the thing that's going to liberate you and free somebody else, because now they're going to know they're not the only one going through that, but also that there's a solution on the other side of that pain. So share your mess and your success. Your mess is your connection to an audience. Your success is your credibility with an audience. I hope y'all are catching that. Your mess is your connection to the audience.
That's right.
Your success is your credibility with the audience. And then the last two are consistency, which means you can't do something one time. You can't show up and speak on one stage, do one webinar, you can't do one of anything. You got to keep showing up over and over and over and be consistent in who you say you are, be consistent in delivering what you promise, be consistent in being visible. Everything you do, there has to be a level of consistency so that you develop the KLT factor with people, know, like, and trust. The more you show up in consistency, the more they know you, like you, and trust you. And then at the top of the level is profitability. And that means selling what you know. Stop sitting on what somebody else is waiting on.
That is awesome. I hope that everybody had a pen and paper and was writing down, because she really dropped some jewels. And one of the things that you mentioned too is just be authentically you. I have a workshop that I do called Boss and Heels, and one of the things that we discuss in that workshop is be you, be authentically you. Don't pretend to be somebody else. Don't try to look and feel like somebody else, because they've already made their blueprint. And I refer to Cardi B for a lot of it, because through it all, when we got to know her for real, she was on reality TV, but she kept referring like, this is who I am. Like, she was that way across the board on Instagram, on all of her posts. She was that way on reality TV. And she kept pressing. One of the things that I really admire by her hustle, and I talk about that in the Boss and Heels workshop, but she was selling mixtapes out her trunk of her car. And on the reality TV show, she kept going after the promoters and saying, hey, take me seriously. This is my music. But she never changed her image, her message. She never changed who she authentically was. And you didn't go to Instagram and see her one way and then look on reality TV and see her another way. And then her music matched it. So I completely agree. And I hope that, the listeners really take note to those 7 steps that you pointed out, because they are valuable, and it's not what a lot of people are telling, because we do live in a society where comparison is the trend. You look on social media and people make certain things look so easy and so glamorous and beautiful. Like, oh, I could do that too. They took a photo like this. Let me take a photo like this. No, you need to put your own stamp on it. So I do appreciate you saying that. So what are some of the courses that you hold specifically throughout the years for women to get involved in?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually in the first season, if you will, of my Vocalize Women Speaker Academy, the certification program. So this is actually the first time I've ever done a certification, which means I'm certifying people who are coming under my brand to say, yes, these are reputable, credible speakers who should be on your stages and your platforms. I launched that actually at my event last November at SpeakerCon, and it is going amazing. We're about 6 months in. And so by November of this year, it's a 12-month session. They will be certified under the Vocalize brand to say, hey, these people have put in the hours, they've put in the time, they've done the studying, they've done the work, and I'm putting my stamp of approval that yes, they should be on platforms all across the world. In fact, I had an amazing opportunity just this past weekend, last Friday, to have some of my the ladies who are in my diamond program of that program to be able to speak to kids in Africa, South Africa.
Wow.
So 2 years ago, I was in South Africa speaking for a university, and I spoke to all the girls who were there. So about 75 plus girls. And I reached back out to them now that we're in COVID-19 just to assess, how are the kids doing? What's their mindset like? What's their mental wellness? And the university was very honest and said a lot of them are suffering depression. A lot of them are feeling isolated. They're feeling left behind from the rest of the world because of course, South Africa and their resources are different than what we have here in the US.
That's right.
And so I said, well, let's put together a virtual program for them. Let's empower them. Let's motivate and inspire them. Like, this of all times is the time that people need that. And they were so excited and elated. So I didn't keep that as an opportunity for myself. I brought in all six of my diamond members of the certification program to give them that first experience of speaking to kids on a global basis.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that certification program is really rich. And now I'm finding that people are asking for additional training outside of just the certification. Like, they don't want to wait to sign up for the next year because it's only once a year for the certification. Yeah. So now I'm pulling in a new component, which is going to be an accelerator program, which will be a 6-week program that I'm going to start in June. So I'm super excited about that. It won't be certification, but it'll still be that intensive training that will be very similar to the certification.
That's awesome. And how has COVID-19 being sheltered in shifted the paradigm for speakers?
Yeah, so they have to show up in the virtual space now. Like, there are no live stages right now. And that's right. The beautiful thing about now is that all of us, speakers included, have that thing that we're always complaining we don't have enough of: time. Right? Like, most of us like, man, it's not enough hours in a day. If only I had a little bit more than 24 hours a day. Now there's no excuse. So I've been using this time to create great content, create new programs, to serve people I wouldn't normally be able to serve because I'm normally on a plane or a train or automobile somewhere traveling to an event to speak. So yeah, every speaker now has to really maximize use of the virtual stage. It's still a stage. It's just the way that people consume it is a little bit different. So are you showing up and doing your Facebook Lives? Because that's still a stage. Are you showing up and doing IG Live through IGTV? Are you showing up and doing webinars? Are you doing conference calls? Like, what is it that you're tapping into from the virtual space that still allows people to hear your voice, consume your message, and make the decision if they want to take your next step invitation to work with you beyond whatever that core message is?
I know. As far as for me, it's been a little hard too, because I have not been big on social media, especially the lives and, just the interaction other than maybe a post here, a post there. So it has been a huge shift for me. I mean, even doing this podcast, I did not want it to be visual. And, my editor was like, no, this is the shift. And a lot of people are doing it. Let's go ahead and try it. So it is a step out on faith for me, but that's part of my journey. So it's not as easy as it looks, but I really do accept the mindset and the reality that this is our new norm. And because I'm a person that feeds off of people, I feed off of the energy of the crowd, and I love the interaction. So it's kind of hard for me, and especially a person that went to school to edit and produce TV, to be in front of the camera with no audience. It's like, it's strange.
But you know what? I think it's so important to acknowledge that all of us feel that way. Mm-hmm. If you are a speaker, most speakers want to be in front of a live audience. Right. Ask me, do I want to be in front of a live? Yes, I want people that's throwing shoes at me, talking about, girl, you better say it. You better preach. Like, that fuels me and fills me and gets me energized. So I think every speaker is in the same position as you are, and that we've had to create a shift. But the question is, are you going to shift? Are you going to pivot? You're clearly doing that because now you're doing the podcast. But there are a lot of women in business who still are just questioning if they're good enough to get on camera. Do I look good enough? Is my backdrop good enough? Girl, put the lipstick on and keep it moving.
Yes.
Like, you have got to, I have the saying, if it doesn't scare you, it can't grow you. So
say that one more time for the people in the back.
Yeah. If it doesn't scare you, it can't grow you. Because if it's not scaring you, that means you settle into comfort. Oh, I know how to do this. It's easy to do this. I can get on the stage. I can get on the stage with my eyes blindfolded, hands tied behind my back, and give a bomb speech, right? And get feedback from the audience. But tapping into this space is a little more challenging because there is no instant feedback. There's no live audience in front of me. So that takes a little more pulling on my gifts and pulling on that energy that I want them to now receive and be infected with, because energy is infectious. It's contagious. So that takes more for me to dig down deeper to pull that out. But guess what? I'm growing so much in the process of having to get uncomfortable.
Right.
So be okay getting uncomfortable, knowing that on the opposite end of this, when we come out of this, you're going to be so much better than when you came in.
Oh, yes, definitely. And which leads me to my final point that you brought out was being, stop waiting for things to be perfect. That's the other point that I was going to make. I fought a long time with that, even with my book or doing the podcast. Like I started out, I just wanted it audio because that was my comfort zone, right? I was like, I can put up a picture, he can put some music to it and put it out. With video, he was like, let's do video. I'm like, I don't have a backdrop, I don't have this. I had to just be like, stop, just do it, and you will get better. You will grow. Like me, I'm getting better. I tell people up front, I'm very transparent. I'm new to this platform, work with me, but every episode I've just gotten better and better. So I totally value that piece of advice. If you're not going, your uncomfortability should push you to grow, and you should just do it. Stop waiting for things to be perfect.
And your ego should never be bigger than your message. Hello. Like if you're focused on that, then you've got things a little bit out of alignment, right? Like if you stay focused on that and don't move, like your ego can never be bigger than your message. Your ego about what you look like, how you look, what the backdrop is, that's not what people are coming for. They're coming for the valuable content that you're pouring into their lives so that they can have a shift in the transformation from where they are to who they really want to be, whether it's in their life, their career, or their business. So again, you're sitting on what somebody else is waiting on, and I don't think they care about your backdrop. I don't think they care about what color, if you have new lipstick on or red lipstick. Like that's not what they're really there for. They're there to say, is there something that I can consume from this content that will allow me to create some steps towards the shift that I desire in my own life?
Woo! So I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you, and I so appreciate you giving me your time today. And I hope that for everyone listening, that you really, really, really took notes on the jewels that Cheryl Wood has dropped during this episode, because let me tell you, people pay to get this information, y'all.
Come on, you better tell them. You come with an invoice, right?
Right. Let's take some email addresses. But I do want to, so the power of I am, at the end, I always ask my audience members to give a word of affirmation, your favorite scripture or favorite verse, to just motivate. It's all about speaking life over yourself, thinking with a positive mindset, pushing the limits, showing people that you can overcome life's obstacles or trials, and educate them on how they're doing it, and just showing them how powerful those two words are, I am. And when you apply it with positivity, you are able to speak and achieve those things you put out there into the atmosphere. So that is the premise behind the power of I am. So I ask that you share an affirmation or favorite saying, or maybe a favorite verse, and then tell everybody where they can get in touch with you on social media.
Yes, I love that. So this is my affirmation that I say every day. I am enough. I am capable. I am worthy just as I am, which means, guess what? I've already come pre-stamped as pre-approved. Like nobody else gets to validate that. No, I'm not waiting on anybody's external permission for me to be good enough. No, I am good enough. I am capable. I am worthy just as I am, which means all I have to do is step into action. And for people who want to stay connected with me, you can connect with me all across social media. My handle is Cheryl Empowers. Again, Cheryl Empowers. I hang out on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and pretty much those places are where you can find me at Cheryl Empowers. And my website is CherylEmpowers.com. If you go over to that website, there's actually a freebie that I give to people who stop by. If you want to drop your name and your email, I'm big on, as you can see behind me on my picture, really equipping and empowering women to unleash the power of their voice. And so one part of that is your signature story. What's the story that gets connected to your brand identity that will enhance whatever it is that you're teaching in the world and sharing with other people? So if you go over to CherylEmpowers.com, You can grab the signature story template for free. It's a downloadable. So as soon as you put your info in, you're going to get an email. You can download it and start working on your signature story today.
Awesome. So thank you very much. And thank you all for listening today. I want you to carry on the message that if you speak it and believe it, you can achieve it. And always believe on the power of I am. So, you can find me on social media, on Facebook, Crystal Kelly, or Instagram, I am Crystal Kelly. Or you can search for this podcast on YouTube, The Power of I Am Crystal Kelly, and it should pop up. Thank you.